Everybody to
No, not yet, not yet. We're
it
not live
says
yet.
live on custom streaming service. And
Yes,
now
but
we're live now. It
now we're
says
live.
I'm
Now,
clicking watch now. Don't tell me what to do.
hi everybody.
Hi
Welcome
everybody.
to
Let's fight.
episode number 4 of
Oh,
season 1.
studio remote.
That's right. On episode 4 today, we're going to be doing data. That's your cue, man. You're supposed to say
Oh yeah,
data.
that's right. Oh, data. We're doing data.
We're doing data.
Alex, you have to switch to gallery view.
All right, hold on.
Yes, we're doing data, which is why Alex is dressed up like Carmen San Diego.
That's right.
Because we're going to be doing some where in the world is the data coming from, and those sorts of important questions.
I thought that my own look was familiar to me, but I just couldn't place it. I'm like, I've seen this before. And
Yeah, and now it's Carmen San Diego.
I finished that, the first one.
Yeah,
One of the rare accomplishments of my childhood.
I mean, I'm sure you had other accomplishments.
This one was one of the rarest ones.
I see. Yeah, that game never appealed to me because, as you can probably guess, I was really good at it. So it was like
you knew your geography. Yeah.
what it was just boring. I was just like, this is too easy. Like, I don't. How did the game work? Like, you had to like talk a little bit, or
I
you
don't
would
remember,
it would
man.
they would mention some kind of place, and then you would have
I
to
guess
like
it.
you had to guess it, and if you guessed it wrong, then they would give you another clue, and then another clue, and then another clue. I always
Yeah.
knew on the first clue, and I was like, this is boring. Give me
You
an
remember, like
adult
Ivan
game.
has a friend that right now that I met. You met him, a little kid
Yes.
that I
Yes.
imagine was you when you were a kid.
No,
That
he
you were that
he
kid that knew all the capitals and also the largest cities in
no, no,
every
no, no.
country.
He blows me away. He's special that way. Um, he has certain let's say advantages in that department that I do not have.
Yeah, very impressive kid.
We'll
But
leave
we
it
don't
at
have to
we'll leave it
memorize
at that.
anything
So
anymore because now we can just pull data in like we're gonna do
yeah,
today.
and you're going to see that because the we don't memorize anything anymore is going to be completely obvious because we're going to be using Pandas, which is the application that I absolutely know nothing about because I never remember the API because I always just Google it.
And we're gonna use pandas because today we're gonna explore data. If I'm guessing correctly, where this is going, because if we were just representing data right away, we wouldn't need pandas. We would be working with the final representational layer done in D3. But if I'm reading the mind of my dear colleague correctly, he's going to take us on a journey of data exploration today, which is often a feature of these kind of processes.
Right, right. So the situation that we're in is so the Rose Hall project has a data set of about 200 enslaved people who lived at Rose Hall in the beginning of the 19th century, and the the project is eventually going to describe as much as possible all of those people, and we're trying to capture their narratives, etc. But while we're building the site, we have these sorts of funny hiccups. So one is because we're publishing the data, or because we're publishing this project as we're working on it publicly on Git, I am super uncomfortable putting the actual live data into Git because it's not our data. It's not public yet. Uh, it will be, but it isn't yet. And we have not sought, and similarly, we do not have the explicit permission from Professor Celia Naylor to make it public.
Right.
So as a result, and but on the other hand, when you're doing HTML firsty type work, you're not working with the real data. You're always working with fake data. So the way that expresses itself is that we already have extremely bad fake data in the project, and I'll get to that in a second. And then the goal today is to look at the real data without making it public, to get a sense of what that real data looks like, and then from that build out a kind of imagine what the fake data could look like, right? So then, you know, however number of people there are, it's 200 something, you know, when we build the fake data, we'll also have that number of people, because that way, when we design the visualizations, we can tell if the numbers are, if the wedges are too small or something, because we know how many people there will be. So instead of making a fake data set that's only 10 people, we should make a fake data set that's 206 or 208 or however many people there are. And then similarly, they have varied birth years. So we should take that opportunity to make, to like build out randomly distributed birth years that follow plus minus the actual distribution of the birth years. So that when we get the visualizations, they'll look close to like the real thing.
Yeah. And there will be variations in some of the categories too that imply some design choices. As you will see, I think at the core of the trait of data visualization is this understanding that meaning is carried through in design elements in the front that are represented either numerically or qualitatively in the back, in the data itself. And understanding that data always helps you be a better designer because you understand what your palette is, like how many triangles you're working with, for example, and what size of triangles you're looking at. All of these things will depend on the type, on the data you have, and I think that's part of the point too.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here because for some reason Tmux isn't playing very nice. So let me just close out of all of it. You got noise going on, Alex. Who's walking into your apartment? Shh, I'm on television. Okay, so let's share my screen here and start doing something. So let's close this. Let's close this. Let's go to Rose Hall. So I have here okay, now it's working fine. So when we go to the project, the project as it already exists, so this is a reminder of the stuff that we did last week. I was just waiting here because it takes a little bit of time. So we created this page, and on mobile, it looks like this, except obviously narrow. And like, this isn't perfect, but it's okay. It gets the job done. And if we widen it out, then it still is mobile style, but let me zoom out a little bit. And there, you know, I just put this placeholder graphic in here. But we have our list of enslaved persons, and it's just two people, Alice and Bob, and there's no data associated with them. So that's not super great. So this is, let's look at what the actual data does look like. And like Alex said, let's start exploring it. So here, back in the page, if I do get status, you see that there's a new file here, rosehallpeople.csv. So this is a file. It's not exactly the data that we had from Professor Naylor. It's already sort of finessed by me. It's the data that we were using in the earlier version of the project. So, I could obviously just show it like this. That's not super useful. So instead, let's open up our great friend Jupyter. And then this opens up a Jupyter notebook that I can bring over here. Is that big enough, Alex? Can you read that?
Yeah, and for those of you who are not familiar with Jupyter Notebooks, they are it's a tool that we can use in order to write code in Python mostly, that is executable right there on the same page. As you leave comments, you can execute lines of code that bring you live results as you're doing it. And it has the added advantage that allows you to save and export and do all kinds of things. It's being used a lot in the classroom, in data science and computer science and other environments in which you want to have a collaborative space for people to look at code live and talk about it as you're starting to see the results. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, and this is now going to be interesting because, as I feared, Pandas is not installed in whatever crazy Python 3 Jupyter is using, because I don't have Anaconda on this machine. So let me see if I have Python 3 on this machine. Okay, so pip3 install pandas. And then does that include, so that includes NumPy, but I don't know about matplotlib. So
I highly recommend Anaconda. If you have, it's like 1 gig or and a little and change, I think, if I remember correctly, and it has everything.
Well, yeah. Anaconda is generally our recommendation to everyone at the libraries, but I'm on my home computer, and my home computer doesn't have Anaconda on it for whatever reason. So let me see.
Anaconda, by the way, for those listening who never heard of it either, it's a package of packages. It has many of the smaller packages all bundled together. It's like a bundle that people use a lot in data science, data visualization, in scientific computation. So it has NumPy for mathematical operations. It has Matplotlib for visualization. It has pandas for this kind of data manipulation at scale, et cetera, et cetera. It just comes with a lot of goodies, and it's just bundled up together. If I'm not mistaken, it even creates its own environment, although I don't remember very well because I use this thing called PyEnvironment. I don't remember if Anaconda comes with its own environment, but I do know that it installs a bunch of stuff all at once. It looks like it's drawing already from your local install.
So am I writing this incorrectly? Import pandas as PD. No, that's correct.
That's exactly the syntax. You should be able to refer to it as PD from now on.
All right, this is hilarious. So let me
turn it off and on. It's usually.
Let me close. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Let me turn it off and on. There's a way to like reboot the thingy, but like let's just do this way.
I mean, that does solve half the problems ever. Just reboot.
Oh no, that's Shazbot. Go away. Go away. Okay. So let's close the server. Yeah, I think the kernels have to be sort of restarted or whatever. Maybe that would have solved the problem, but I'm aware of the fact that we have an audience here, and I'm trying not to do too much that is breaking things. So.
No. Just do import pandas. Just import the whole thing. Let's see. No, I mean you're gonna get the same error. Just double checking.
Oh boy.
Huh.
This
I predicted this
all
on the
right,
last,
time to start Googling. What's that?
I predicted this on the last episode. At the end, I said eventually something is not gonna work. Ha!
Yep.
Called it. Here's one of the most popular steps for solving problems in the planet. Whenever something doesn't work, you Google it. And this solves like about 80%. My guess is would be it's an 80-20 rule here, where 80% of problems you run into when you're trying to work on these things, you solve by Googling. The answer is most likely to be in Stack Overflow, Stack Exchange, as we see here. When you get an error that has an error message, that's usually a good thing, because what you're Googling is usually a quotation, direct quotation from the error. In some cases, you might want to add a couple extra keywords up to the quotation if it's too vague. But for the most part, it's just a little copy and paste of the error. It usually gets you the answer, which is, I think, what we just did here.
Yeah, so this is okay. All right, so it's using this Python
Instead of Python.
instead of the Python I had here, which is in user local bin. So then,
yeah, so this is interesting because, for
copy
example,
path.
this one happened for me because I use this thing called PyEnvironment, which actually creates a completely separate environment for Python. I don't know if that's what we're gonna do here, but we're watching this unfold live. Take out your popcorn, people. As Wasil tries to recover.
Oh, why am I copying their thing? I have to copy my thing.
Yes. I should stop narrating this as if we were in
No, go ahead. Keep narrating
watching
because it's
secret
much more
meeting or
interesting than
something.
just watching me do stuff
Yeah, this is
or like watching me do
the
nothing.
strange habits of the work from home data research librarian.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I spent a lot of time today making it so that my work from home thing would be a Lego dude. So here's the frame while Pandas is installing. Here's the frame, and then if I put this on my monitor,
Put yourself on big screen. Put yourself on big. Stop screen sharing so that we get
oh, there we go. So this is my new work from home look. How's it look?
I like it. I wouldn't call it an improvement. I like the original, but it's also a little blurry. So the camera can't adjust to that kind of proximity.
No, it actually can, but only on Windows. Because it's a Razer camera, and Razer doesn't have their software for Windows. So,
but the concept is good. I like the concept.
yeah, I think it's all right.
I might have a donkey if I do this here at my place of work. I think I'm going to replace your Lego dude with a donkey. Mostly also because most of my Legos are stormtroopers. I think all other forms of Lego, hominid forms of Legos in this house were given to charity, and only stormtroopers survive.
Yeah, so I'm a pirate with a sword, and you're Carmen Sandiego. So I think that works pretty well. This sun is getting ridiculous too. Like there's
I kind of like it. It gives me a really good line on the side.
What's that? But like, look at me.
I like the way that it's actually creating this natural light for me, the way I don't have to use any kind of fake light.
All right, I'm going to screen share because so that you guys don't see the tears in my eyes that the sun is causing. Okay, so we're back to here. So we have the Jupyter notebook, and I open this guy up. Oops, let's just start this all over again. But now it will work, I promise. Okay. Let's grab the page. Let's go over here. Untitled.
Can you erase that one?
How do I
think
delete
edit.
cells? Edit. Delete cell.
Do it. Yay! Success.
Yep.
A very common issue and that trips up a lot of beginners, and it's environment is everything, and it's usually one of the hardest pain points. It's like it goes hand in hand with installing anything, and like we said, I think it was in last episode or the episode behind, installing stuff is usually the in your computer it's one of the choke points for a lot of people who are new to doing this kind of work. And definitely when we're setting up our students or anybody in a workshop, we spend more time installing than we actually do teaching people how to do the thing. There it is.
Ta-da. So here's the CSV that I mentioned that has all the real data. I use the pandas read CSV method to read in the file to create a data frame called DF. That's just what people call it in the pandas world. And then I did DF head, which shows the first 5 hits. And I will be right back because I absolutely have to shut these blinds. So let me, Alex, talk about what some of these data thingies are, I guess.
Yeah, so I was kind of interested in the use of this DF, and I was wondering if it comes from calculus, from differential, which I'm about to Google. I didn't know that he was going to go shut his blinds. I was about to Google that. But sure, we can already see here some of the first columns. If you scroll more to the right, you will see more of the columns. So we're going to start talking about the ones that we see here. So first column is usually the most important one in terms of handling data, which is the ID column. Usually when we work with these kinds of data sets, every row should have its own ID. Sometimes it's called the PID or permanent or persistent ID. In this one, we're just calling it ID. It's the same thing. The concept is that each row, which in this case is a person, has a unique value. And the reason we do that is because sometimes a person will have like the same name. So you can't really trust the rest of the data to be able to allow us to distinguish each of these rows. So the ID is supposed to do that job, is to ensure that we don't confuse any given row because it shares data with another row. And that looks so much better. Yeah. You don't look like you're being eaten by the sun.
Thank you.
So as we go down from left to right, we see some columns that are self-explanatory, like name. The third one, column C, it's called slug. This would be useful in order for us to create URLs down the line and perhaps other things we might want to create that want to have a combination of the qualities of an ID, but the combination with the qualities of something that is semantic, something that is readable. Origin is the place of in this case, the origin is only 2 choices. As far as I remember, it was either people who were born in Africa and brought, or Creole, which is obviously African descent, but born in the plantation or in Jamaica. or already in the Americas. Now, this is, I'm assuming mostly born already in Jamaica, but I don't want to make too many assumptions.
So there are African, Creole, not specified Creole African.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Did you start explaining what Creole means?
Yeah, Creole means born on this side of the Atlantic already. And this distinction, at least, I don't know what Creole/African is referring to, but I can think of cases in history like we were where someone was brought in so young that they become Creolized. Maybe that's what that means. And by Creole already starts. It starts implying certain things that about your ability to navigate the culture, your familiarity with the society, and also your behavior in relationship to it. Now, this is, of course, the bread and butter of debates within the historiography of slavery, which is it's kind of like differences between the influx coming in of recently kidnapped, recently enslaved folks coming in from Africa, and they're different sort of relationships to the institution of slavery than to people who were born into it. And we should ask Celia to clarify this Creole Africa at some point for us, or to remind us of what she meant by those. Not specified means, obviously, I assume that means not in the record. It's just not indicated in the record.
Yeah.
After that, we have the role. Trade, I think, would be a much clearer way to call that column, which will allow us eventually to also map out, for example, a question that is always important is like, are Creole enslaved persons assigned different roles than people who had just been brought? In general, in my readings of the historiography, which are limited because I am not a specialist, it does seem to be the case that there are trends where Creole folks are assigned different things, but that always, as it's always, that will have varieties based on locale, right? So at least having this data here will allow us to actually see some patterns.
Yeah. So, and here are the different roles. So, and there are 39 of them. So you can see what sorts of how the workforce was distributed.
Can we quickly pair them up
Nope,
with
not yet. Not yet.
not yet?
Yeah, that's going to involve Googling.
Okay, so yeah, so let's keep going. So how many unique colors do we have? All right, so we have Negro, non-specified, Sambo, Mulatto, Quadroon, Negro, Sambo. So of course, this is the sort of colorism that we see in the defining Caribbean understandings of race and impositions of race for centuries, even abutting into the present in different forms. So we see this.
Can you define these terms?
Huh?
Can you define these terms?
So gradations, right? So this is in the United States. I think this is understood around the idea of the one drop rule. So it's like there are different variations of black, depending on what the percentage of.
Yeah, that's sorry, that's the exact opposite, because the one drop rule completely destroys the gradations. You are black or you are not. If you have one drop, yeah, that's what that means. Like one drop makes you black.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought that one drop was the beginning of the gradation, and then you went from there to.
No. Because that's, yeah. I mean, different states had different laws. Like the whole logic behind Plessy versus Ferguson, the case that established separate but equal as okay, involved Homer Plessy riding a train from Louisiana to Mississippi, I think, and he was, if I recall correctly, 1/16th black, and he so when he boarded the train in Louisiana, he was a white person. And then when the train crossed the border into Mississippi, he became magically a black person. And so that's why like they stopped the train at the border, the police. I mean, it was all like orchestrated, like it was all done intentionally to test the law. And that's what happened. So like different states had different rules, but when they say one drop, they meant like anything at all. So uh so these distinctions exist variably throughout the United States history.
In
But
the
yeah, so
Caribbean, we've had this kind of like range. Uh, uh, and the ranges themselves implied in many of the uh, moments in history and many of the locales, they implied different relationships to the law and different relationships to society. And actually, there were many times the occasion for political allegiances that actually clashed with each other, as we see in some episodes of the Haitian Revolution. Not all of it, that it can be understood as fights between mixed race against against black, in the concepts of the time as they're playing out, with people that have been recently arrived, or first generation, second generation from Africa, siding on the what we call the black side against these kind of like or against a mixed race that is assumed to be Creole. In any case, it's obviously, as anything in history, these things are more complicated on the ground than we make them out to be. But these kind of gradations have always played an important role, and we see them indicated here in the records and for Rose Hall, um, with these things. If I remember correctly, quadroon is like 1/4.
yep.
Yeah, which would be a very light skinned person by now. It's one. It would most likely be a very light skinned person. There it is. Clasificación colorida. Where is this one coming from?
This is from Phylon.
From Mexico.
Well, I don't know exactly. Yeah, so it's this article. I had in grad school. I had to do a deep dive into Phylon, and I found this, and I've like always thought about it ever since, because of the. Do you want to like talk about this a little bit? Like
No,
get
this one
in.
still looks like it also has American Indian there. It has Native American in there,
Yeah,
being
that's
the
what
one
the slashes,
with
the
the
cross
slashes.
hatched.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have quote unquote 100% here, and then you have just this whole hierarchy, or not hierarchy necessarily, but this whole classification scheme, moving between which of the three different, uh, how your ancestry mixed through the three different uh, groups, racial groups in Mexico. And I particularly liked it because it just, like just this sort of move, that it just gets like there's mulatto pardo and then lobo and then et cetera, et cetera.
That is very detailed in the gradation. So I'm assuming quadroon is the morisco in Spanish. Is what
Yes,
I'm
Morisco.
assuming there.
And Sambo. What's a Sambo?
I don't know.
I don't know either. We are not domain experts.
Nope.
So
That would be
I,
the with the Amerindian.
oh, I didn't see. Well, now I'm the racist because I read this as African and American ancestry and just understood
You're white.
American as white. All
Yeah.
right, I canceled myself. It's been real all.
Well, I'm gonna have to learn D3 from scratch now, guys,
Yeah.
so that we can move it quicker.
But yeah, so in the so Sambo is this area of this chart. Okay. All right.
Which is interesting to me because the thing is that I didn't know that that we had this kind of. Can you count how many how many people are indicated as Sambos here?
Yes, that is
Just do len df
no,
roll
it's
value, then yeah, quotation marks.
I think that's what it is. Nope, that's just all the values.
Yeah, but that's what I thought. Like you put values and then in parentheses and then in quotation mark you put one of them, and it if you wrap up everything in len, len, and then put df dot color value equals sample.
That's what it is. It's value counts.
Oh. Oh, well, Pandas has a very convenient way of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. That's something I didn't, in my imagination of the data, I didn't, because I never looked up Sambo. Can you confirm that this is what it means in Jamaica? Can you go back to?
I mean, let's just assume it is,
All right.
because we can make so Negro is like 100% black. Mulatto would be black and white, probably
Right.
half and half. Sambo would probably be some mix where instead of white, it's Native American.
Right.
And then like these are unclear. And then quadroon is where it's specifically 1/4 black.
Right. All right.
All right. So the astonishing, cruel nature of racial classification. Anyway, do you want to go through the rest of this stuff? Like, or I can describe it pretty quickly. Description is similar to the role. I don't think there are that many different. It's like able and healthy, and then I think another one is like drunk. Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
able and
Also, a
healthy.
reminder to our viewers that this is data that is being compiled and curated by the bad guys.
By the plantation owners.
Yeah, this is the people doing the torturing and the and forcing these people to labor, and very often imposing physical violence on top of the psychological violence.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously part of like the system, as has been pointed out by many people, is actually of dehumanization. Is actually converting people into these forms. Like their subjectivity is reduced to these forms. You also, it's a disease of the skin.
Oh, okay.
Marcel.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's a tropical disease, which is why
Yes.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, very common.
Oh, but it makes you look like a raspberry.
Yeah.
Oh, it says that right
Not
here.
pretty. Don't Google it in front of the audience because you will get the images of it. So don't do it.
Okay.
I'm gonna do it. Don't do it, man.
I'm not gonna do it. This
Don't
is
do it.
yeah. Okay, so all right, so that means sick. I had no idea. Do you know what Whitlow is?
That one I don't know, but it's probably another.
Let's not Google image it first. Let's look it up in the OED first. Swelling in the finger or thumb. That's not so bad. Why does it have such a weird name? White flaw. who knows? Okay. Then this sort of stuff here. The rest of the chart is a lot of the sort of mathy type stuff that we were doing to clean up the data to get it ready for version 1. So the birth year is not recorded in the archive. We only have their age in certain years. So we did a little bit of math to sort of extrapolate the birth year. I thought for sure there was something that was like drunk. Maybe it's just not included in here. Okay. All right. So the main, so now we can start sort of describing this.
You want to take a sec to see if anybody has asked anything on the video?
ON Score approves of your hat.
Oh.
They wrote styling.
And this is to avoid showing you this. The man behind the curtain is a mess because I am not leaving this house during pandemic.
Especially not now. But I think I'm starting to think the hat gives you kind of like a Zappa vibe.
I think from now on, I just gotta I think I just can't go back. After this is over, I might have to keep on wearing hats because
like the mustache and soul patch gives you kind of like a Frank Zappa vibe, I think.
The mustache and the patch might have to go, but the hat might stay. Unless I get more supportive comments on the chats.
Yeah, let's get some hearts going for the mustache and the soul patch. Okay, so the goal here is to try and build out a fake data set, right?
Right.
So this is all the categorical data that we have, like where it's words. But then we also have the numerical data, of which the main one, the two things of interest are birth year and exit year. Exit year is the extremely awkward way of describing when a person no longer shows up in the archive, because that may be because they died or they were sold. So I was trying to figure out the like a good way to describe it, and the best I could get was exit year. So I don't know.
Do we have birth year is the only entrance year that we have?
Well, we had I think we calculate entrance year. Well, entrance year, we don't need to calculate a birth entrance year because the entrance year is either 1817 or your birth year if it's greater than 1817.
Okay, got it.
Because for the people who are already there in 1817, which is the first time the records show up, we don't know when they came. So so instead we just calculate a birth year for them. You seem puzzled.
No, just thinking whether we want to make that explicit in the data set itself in case what you say makes perfect sense. It's just not explicit, but it makes sense. That's all. I was just thinking.
Okay.
For exit year, there's no. I had a similar problem in the same boats project. We have a similar problem. I say departure, and then I always get the answer. It was like because we're trying to map the life trajectories of people.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this arrival and departure categories because it's like, well, arrived in Paris, departed to such and such. And then, of course, the scholars that are creating their own data sheets, they always write down, if birth is an arrival and departure, and when they die, that's a departure. I'm like, yes, I'm sorry, because we're not going to create two different categories just for these two things, right?
Yeah, but it is.
So but with awkward solution, like death is a departure.
No, but I mean, I think I'll stop sharing for a sec. Like, I think that that these are important questions when you're doing the Joanna Drucker type thing of remembering that data about people is always about people, and that you know, it's really awkward to, like, I can see both sides of it. Like, you want one column for ease of use, but exit year is really weird to talk about a person exiting the plantation through death or being sold. I think those are the only two options. Like, I think
There was
there's
nobody manumitted?
what's
Did
that?
you say that nobody was manumitted at any point?
I don't remember seeing that. I know that there were runaways, but I don't think anybody succeeded in running away for good. I could be wrong about that. So so yeah, and it's just, it's like, everything about this is really rough, you know, because it's telling a really rough story. And you know, like, the sort of the way we talk about it in the data set is already sort of framing how we talk about it later. Like, you know, when you said you didn't like roll, what did you suggest instead of roll?
Trade.
Trade. Like, why, you know, why do you want to make that change? Like, do you want to say more about
Trade,
that?
trade to me was because eventually people will get paid for this. This is like the thing they know how to do. At this
Mhm.
point, they're being forced to do it, and they're being forced to do it without getting uh, without a reward. Okay, and a lot of these things a lot of these things are things that people get well paid for today. You know.
Well, I mean, and especially then. Now there may not be a huge market for a cartman, but I'm
Right, right.
sure that,
But
yeah.
I said some. I said
Oh, I see. Yeah.
some of these things you get you can make a living with some of these things.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, all of those things we were looking at are things that people in the early 19th century were, you know, surviving off of. Like, they were
Right. That's why I'm
jobs that,
calling
yeah,
it a trade.
yeah,
That
yeah. It's artisanal type stuff, but not all of it. Like, there's just like a field hand or whatever it was. You know,
yeah.
it varies. But I think that um, it also will be so the trade or the role, that's only in the last entry. We don't have that recorded for every 3 years that they had the data for. Um, but it would be interesting to see when we did the initial data analysis like a year ago. I don't remember exactly what the results were, but there are relationships, like you were suggesting, between um, a person's color and their origin and what kinds of jobs they were doing. So yeah.
Well, we had this conversation too. I mean, I started having this kind of conversations, and I knew that the conversations were possible for the first time about 10 years, I think now, when the Critical Code Studies group with Mark Marino and in that group over in the West Coast, at least for many of us, lifted the hood and showed us what was underneath the hood of a lot of these games that we were playing since we were kids, and a lot of this software, and showed us commentary about the words that were being used in the background, and they wanted to read that. And they wanted to read
Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean games? What do you, can you be
like
a
the
little bit?
software, like video games.
Okay.
Like they would actually then like Civ, for example, like Civilization, they would random,
Not random at all. Go on.
yeah, and they would lift the hood and show us the code. Now, of course, we couldn't. That was 10 years ago. I could hardly read any code,
Oh,
but I
the source code.
the source code, yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant like just the sorry, the reason I was smiling was because I had a tweet about Civ recently. That's all.
And we know behind the scenes we won't comment further, but we know that you've been known to play it once in a while. So I myself I have been guilty of playing Civ. The the that we looked at the source code, because that's what Critical Code Studies folks do. You look at source code. They have themes every year. They do a different theme, and there are different approaches to doing this. And it was through them that I first started looking at source code as a text that you could read.
Mm-hmm.
And there are of course low-hanging fruit examples where some of the makers of the producers of these games are just blatantly racist. But there's a lot more room for new ones, right? And I was participating in these conversations since then, and since then we've had a chance to actually explore this kind of idea that code can be read as text in many different from many different angles, including Johanna Drucker being one of the angles that has been productive. I think our colleague and friend Dennis Ten in his first book, Plain Text, makes a really strong case for this kind of reading code as text. And I'll tell you that in these 10 years where I am right now, where I land on this, when it comes to working, to naming this, for example, these columns in the data, which we know is both semantic and also operational, in the sense that this is not just words. This is a particular sequence of characters that our software will be able to manipulate in order to do X, right? So in that sense, it has kind of that sort of like a contingency element that somebody like Saussure would speak of when he would say that the signifiers themselves don't mean anything in themselves, that they're just random, right? But they're being operationalized with semantics through the signified, right? Sorry, I didn't mean to get so English department here. Let me raise myself from
No,
English department.
but it makes sense, and that's like that was the point of the Civ thing. So my comment on Civ was, I mean, I've been playing Civ since I was in high school, so you know, all 6 versions of Civ I've played, and it was only like, you know, thinking about, you know, I've been trying to get better read in like indigenous studies and Native American studies, and thinking about settler colonialism and everything. And so, you know, here I am playing Civ, and obviously Civ is a game of colonization and of but it was just what really struck me this time, or that occasioned the tweet, was the way that, like, in Civ you start and you build your little city, and then you like create literal settlers that you send out to settle unoccupied lands. But the lands are occupied because either there will be a nearby goody hut, which is apparently what the fans call them, which is a friendly village, or there will be barbarians who are unfriendly locals. And what struck me was that Civ calls the autochthonous population of the land that you are invading to settle, and that resists your invasion, it calls them barbarians, instead of, like, you know, like that's the Saussurean point you're making, is that that's just code, it's just bits, it's not
Right.
like, but the game developers were like, those are barbarians.
Right. And this is where I'm saying is like this is where we never want to stop at the level of the signifier, and I get it, but we should never ever forget that the signified is tied to it.
Yeah.
But then once we get through that hump, and we can stop making the argument that it's just operational, pretending as if it didn't have a signified, pretending as if it didn't, as if barbarian was just code, and also not carrying all the historical sociolinguistic baggage that it carries. When we stop pretending that, and stop being like these 20-year-old to 30-year-old programmers of a certain demographic that kind of have that attitude, then we're posed with another problem, which is that how do we approach these projects that already are handling data that in itself was dehumanizing from the get-go?
Yeah.
And my answer, one that I that I can live with is that, and this is why, for example, exit point, what did you call it?
Exit year.
Exit year,
Yeah.
and exit type, right? You had exit year and exit.
We haven't gotten that far,
Okay.
but presumably it would be possible to add exit type, as I think it's called transport or death.
We can figure out at that why that to me is okay is that it's still it's respectful. It's
Mhm.
not saying that something that we could call it end year if you want to be even more more respectful. Especially we're talking about traditions, about
But
people who
it's the sorry,
tradition does not mean that life ends at death.
the the reason I don't like end year is because it implies that anyone sold stopped being enslaved.
Right. But
Whereas
again,
exit,
for me,
exit,
I understand that this is the end year at the plantation.
yeah. But
We can put also a longer word that says there last year at the plantation.
sure,
Last year, plantation last year, or last year at plantation.
that could work too, yeah.
And it's just a longer word, but it's fine. We can type. It's still there's still not long words to type.
Yes.
So we don't need to save on a few keystrokes if it actually means that we're introducing the necessary level of reverence and respect for the subject matter at hand. So I actually kind of the more I say that like last and it's also more descriptive, which is something we want for anybody else who is also going to work with this data to understand what it is that we are talking about
Okay.
with this year, right?
All right. So
Let me
actually
get some water.
then what's that?
I'll
Yeah.
take
So
a
we're at 4 o'clock.
5 minute
So
break. Yeah.
yeah, let's take a break and we'll be back. So let me share my screen again
Do it.
with this. And then where's my we'll be back graphic? I don't know, but I'll make one. Where did it go? What did I do? I had it last week. Man, sometimes it feels like I should be better prepared for this.
You know, something we can always do. I
But
have myself a folder called Studio Remote that is keeping me sane and organized.
yeah,
Maybe we should share it.
maybe.
Mm. But I
All
kind of
right. So let's
also
say
we
we'll be
promise our
back
audience.
at hold on, back at 10 minutes
Yeah,
at 10 after.
yeah. Just to conclude, we did promise our audience that we were not that this is all the work was going to happen here. So maybe we were just lying to ourselves that all work happens just when we're together.
Yeah, I mean like that yeah, because it's this kind of desire to be real and in the moment, but also to be entertaining. You know, it's like why video games don't have bathroom breaks,
Right, that's true.
even though the real like you like Link never goes to pee.
But now we will. I'll see you
Yes.
guys back at 10.
All right.
Hey, we're still on a break, Pickles. You want to say hi to people here? Come on, come on. You can say hi. Say hi. Yeah, we're in a show. Studio remote. Every Friday from 3 to 5. That's right. We're live, broadcasting to the world. Thank you. All right, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down next to Poppy. Lay down next to Poppy. There you go. Good boy. Lay down. Good boy. Lay down. Lay down. No, no, no. Lay down. No. Lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Lay, lay down. No.
Alex, he doesn't like your poor grammar. You have to say lie down. Then he'll understand.
Oh, no. It's lay down.
Nope.
Nah, that can't be. I've been saying lay down all my life.
Well, lay is transitive. Like now I lay.
Lay down too.
Well,
everybody says lay down in this house.
Well, luckily I have the OED right here.
Fake news. Fake news. It can't be.
Transitive. See?
Lie down. Lie down. Sounds so weird. Lie down. Lie down.
Well, there's the prayer that's like, now I lay me down to sleep, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that's I lay me, so it's transitive. It's reflexive, perhaps, but
learn anything every day.
Yep, that's why we're here.
All right.
So what did I want to say?
We looked over all the data. Is it time perhaps to start preparing the dummy data?
Yeah. Jeremiah wanted to warn you that you were live making out with Mr. Pickles.
I was not making out with him. He tried to lick me.
Uh-huh.
And I stopped him.
Okay, so I've had this up on the share for a while now, but I wanted to point it out that the distribution of birth years is like not normal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if we go, if I open up a new document, right? Oops. So birth year, for example, is just basically a random number between 1760 and 1830.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's look at exit year.
That don't look right.
No, it does look right because it's a couple people every 3 years and then everyone at the end when slavery was abolished.
Slavery is abolished.
Yeah. So instead of looking at this as a histogram.
Oh, hey, look, everybody in the United States. Slavery was abolished in the British Empire way before it was in the United States. Would you look at that?
Don't get too excited about about the British for doing
No,
that.
no, they're horrible human beings, obviously. And they didn't stop their shenanigans then.
So the exit year is a random number between, so exit year, random number between 1818 and 1831, let's say 1818 and 1831, but 2/3 of the time it's 1832. Right?
Yep.
Brilliant. Are there any other numerical thingies you want that we have here? No, that's it. Max age we don't need. We don't need these different things. So yeah, so that's the numerical stuff. Name is just a random name, right? Name. ID is how do you want to describe ID? P plus integer
Yeah.
without zero padding. Slug is name ID. Gender.
That alas, something that we discussed is that we don't have more than the binary to work with here.
Is that surprising?
Yeah. It's just the nature of the colonial records.
Mm-hmm. So let's just call this 50-50. It's with a capital. Roll, let's skip now because there are so many. Color. So I think we're going to have a talk about what to do with these, what to do here. Some kind of quote unquote normalization of some sort. Like we'll have to make editorial decisions because or just talk about it with Celia.
We need to, this could be parked and then we need to talk to Celia soon.
Yeah.
So that she can clarify some of these.
Yeah.
I think it's time to start inviting her. Maybe she wants to come in sooner rather than later to the sessions. But this one is something that we can clarify with an email this week so that we can be ready for next Friday.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, like these numbers are so small anyway. Like, I don't know. Oh, so you were asking, for example, what did you want to know about the trades and the
to see if they, the origin, country of origin matches overlaps with trade for the most part.
Okay, so so that's origin. So origin, we can effectively say 3/4 of the time it's Creole and 1/4 of the time it's African. Like the like outliers of one person, you know what, 1%, this will be 2 people, 3 people.
Mm-hmm.
like it's okay for us to sort of skip these when we're doing this kind of like guesstimate type stuff. So let's do, or we can be
I mean, to generate this fake data, I would just create a copy of the data that we have
mm,
and randomize 2 or 3 of the columns.
no, I want to do it this way because I think that this is a uh, this is more learning opportunity.
Okay.
So let's say
I mean,
72% Creole, 25% African, rest, let's just say Creole, African, or not specified.
right.
Okay, that's good. And you wanted to know how the jobs, what jobs the Africans had? The people listed as African?
Yeah, whether those align with something else.
Okay, so that's DF origin equals African. Okay, yeah, so this is just Africans. And then let's look at role.
Okay.
Versus
Equals Creole.
Creole.
So that's interesting in this case. Says that all the field workers, which is the harshest, arguably the harshest job, it's hard to quantify, but just roughly, one gets the sense that working on the fields is the harshest conditions of work.
Well, like it's tough to say because the data set is so small.
Right.
But you can see that watchmen is equal 3-3, so Africans are overrepresented as watchmen.
Right, and
Grass cutter is 5-2, so Africans are very overrepresented among grass cutters. But that's probably about it.
How much grass did they have in this place? And what does it mean to be a grass cutter? Is that also field and just a different way of saying field, like a subfield within field? We can ask Celia.
Well, I mean, I would guess no, because like if I had to guess, I would say that field is for actually tending to what are crops, and maybe grass cutter could be tending to the landscape.
That makes sense to me. So it could be any one of several landscaping roles.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so it's not the case that but it's also because there are so few people listed as African. I mean, this isn't a lot of people. This is 15-ish, something like that, 15 to 20. It's not a lot, and that means that like it's hard to say because if your assumption is that like the Creoles were working the more artisanal jobs, then, well, no, because the largest job that a Creole had, the most of them were working in the field.
Right.
And like, yes, you get like, I'm not sure what hog meat gang is, but that sounds artisanal. not at work. We understand, of course, this is
It
probably also true
sounds
for
to me like a
babies.
butcher. Sounds to me like a
Yeah,
butcher.
something like a butcher, cattle boy like Cooper, barrel maker. I mean, this is definitely artisanal. Cartman is probably artisan, and like, but then it also just drops off. Like you know, you have Wise Field one here, so this is the data isn't clean.
It doesn't
It's
sound also just from looking at this that the overseers were particularly they were not using uh, um, control vocabularies here. So they're not proto librarians. They're definitely jerks, but they're definitely not proto librarians because Cartman and Field and then Cartman above, and then like it's not the most control vocabulary type stuff I've seen.
well, but it also, I mean, it also suggests a certain amount of fluidity in the sense that, like, you know, when when you had to be in the field, you had to be in the field.
Right.
So yeah.
All right, thank you.
So
Just
I
at a
don't.
completely technical level, just a quick question. What is this Panda syntax where you have a df inside another df?
So this is Pandas magic.
Yeah, it looks magical to me. What is going on?
It is magical. So Pandas is like in regular programming, you would do this with a filter.
Right.
Like in JavaScript, you would write something like df filter row
Row equals African. Yeah.
no row origin equals African, and then you would do oh crap, I don't even want to think about how to do the value counts. You would have to do a reduce. That's messy, but this is what you this in JavaScript gets collapsed into this in Pandas. I mean, filter is a function, I think, in Python. Looks like.
Yeah.
So it would be, it's sort of the same thing, but so the thing to remember about Pandas is that if you do um, it has this thing, a data frame, but if you do like df origin, it's a series. So a series is like a column and is basically a NumPy array, and a data frame is a bunch of NumPy arrays, right? So when you do something like so this is a column, origin is the name of one of the columns, and it's a series, which means that it's just like origin is the header, and then it's like African, Creole, 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 African, Creole, etc. Right? So when you do, and this is what's so interesting, is if you do df origin I think this works. You get a bunch of, you get a series that's true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. So then when you put this into here, you're saying, show me the df of like where only this is true. So it's like really peculiar syntax, but kind of makes sense and kind of feels a little bit like list comprehension. So like um, I don't even know if this is exactly what it looks like or what you would do in Python, in regular Python with a list comprehension.
Mhm.
But it's something like this. So this is, by putting it inside the brackets, it feels a little list comprehension-y to me. But yeah, it's fun pandas syntax. I've been
Okay.
told this is a little bit RE, like that the weird pandasness is because it's being like R, but I don't know R enough. I don't know how to do these kinds of on the fly filters in R. So I don't know.
I don't know anything about R other than apparently R Studio is nice.
That's fun.
All right.
Okay, so that's that's a little bit of exploratory analysis. For the time being, we do not have any plans of to do anything with the role or the description, so I think we can skip them for now.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that isn't even in this data thing is the matrilinearity.
Which we can reconstruct.
Well, we can fake it in the data, but we have to we should be it's not in this reduced data frame that I made, like the information about mothers and grandmothers isn't in here. So that's a task for a different time. But yeah, so let's see how many people we have here. 208. Okay, so 208 people. So we can start doing this. You think we can do it in a half hour?
Fake data?
Fake data?
I hope you're recommending a generator.
I am.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Like I'm telling you, I am the guy who does things cheap. So I would just randomize what we have already by rearranging it. But that's me. This is like, I don't need a tool when all I need to do is just pick 3 columns at random in a copy and shift their order.
So you would just like a jackpot, you would just spin the wheels?
Yes, this is a poor man's fake data creator that essentially will create data that is still proportionally the same as the original data, but does not communicate what the original data is.
The sort of. Jeremiah's sleeping on banning chats on the mod.
Why, there's some people selling Viagra on the chat. So what's going on?
There we go. It got murdered. The mod stepped in and deleted the message. Yeah, I can't. I think it was for followers. I can't remember. Anyway, so let's do this. You're all like, "Oh, this is dumb." The thing about it with the using it as the jackpot wheels is that hypothetically you could figure out how to align them correctly.
How?
Especially, I mean, like, yeah, who cares? But also, you'll see why.
Like how would you be able to realign them? How would you know what the right order is without looking at the original? How?
Because you can. Well, I'll tell you exactly how. Because you can intuit data in one column from another column. So names, like you have male, female, 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 male, male, male. Then you look for places where it looks like there are 4 female names in a row, and like then you see if that lines up.
But this is why you would do it smartly. When you arrange the names, you arrange the gender with the name. Okay, first of all, let me tell you what the method would be for rearranging, because I'm not planning to do this exactly like you describe as a roulette wheel. where every column moves independently of each other. It's not a roulette wheel. You're talking about the coin machines. That's not the roulette. The roulette is a wheel. You're talking about the coin machines.
Yeah.
But what I'm describing is, for example, you do it smartly. So like the names should go with the gender, but here's how you do it. So you select those two. You create a copy, right? Of the data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on copy number one, actually you have to create two copies. On copy number one, you select gender and names, and you do sort A to Z,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you copy and paste both of those and replace the other copy number two, which should be sorted by something else. You sort copy number two by something else, and then you replace those two right there. And all names for like Ramon, Pepe, and stuff like that will still be male. Maria, etc., will be female. And then you re-randomize it, you resort it in the other one to whatever it was originally, and now they're all confused with each other, without the ability to reconstruct the data.
But that also, like, but the underlying pre-assumption is that the data already exists, and we're trying to sort of show, or I am at least, what do you do when you also don't have the data yet?
Okay, so that's teaching, not working fast and efficient. But for the sake of education and pedagogy, let us generate the data using a generator.
Okay.
I'm also, part of my lesson to the world has always been, minimal computing. If you can do it cheaper, do it. That's the way I do it.
Hey, listen, if we
Faster and
can,
cheaper, do it that way.
if we can get this done in by the end of the day, then I'll have considered that to be done rather cheaply.
That's true.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So let me now I gotta focus, because now I'm on the clock.
I like
All
it.
right.
Good challenge.
So step one. First thing you do is let's add Faker.
Faker is the JavaScript fake data creator.
Fake data creator. We will only need it for names.
Okay.
So the Ember has this idea of a model, and we'll talk about this later, I guess, or next week we can talk about it. So the model has let's go to the docs. Now you're like, oh man, this guy is already going to the documentation. There's no way he's going to do this in time. It's no way.
I got a side bet going. I mean, the markets, the betting markets have you at 1-2 right now. So I'm just saying.
So do you want to explain what a model is? It's the same as it is in Rails.
Yeah. So a model is we have to create a sort of abstract model of what the data is. In most cases, when you're dealing with a database, a model will connect one table to another. So the model that we're going to create here is actually a very simplified model that only has to worry about what columns we have in here, which is what he's writing right now. And it's only one table, so we don't have to worry about how these columns connect to some other table. A good example of a normal model that is more than one table is when you have a contact list. And one of your tables will be the people and all their phones and addresses. And then a table that can connect to that would be like a table that maps these addresses to a to longitude and latitude, etc., to allow you to visualize people through a map or something. In this case, we only have one table to worry about. So the model is simple. So, and what Sphere is doing right now is he is just describing the columns.
Yeah, so these are the columns that we have: name, origin, birth year, exit year, slug, gender, color. We don't have to include ID because ID is generated on the fly. This may cause a problem because it is generated on the fly, but it's not that big a deal. Okay, so then what we need to do is we need to create a route.
Now, it's important to point out for those of you who are joining today for the first time, maybe just jumped in the middle of something, that Monsieur's not only going to create fake data, he's going to create the fake data already inside the project.
Yes.
Which is why you're seeing Ember right now.
Yeah. So so we generated the model person, tuk. Then you define all the attributes, and then you do creating relationships. Nope. Routing. Specifying a routes model. So a route is like what's in the URL.
Mm-hmm. And this model is very similar to the types of models you encounter in the ancient ways of doing things like Ruby on Rails, where you have to define your routes as well. Working in this way for these frameworks is useful, for example, down the line. It becomes really useful when you're working at really large scales and you want to create, for example, an API for every single bit of your data to be accessible by another software. These kind of routing logics that we can use in these files can generate all of these URLs for you. Now, this is a very simple form of the route. I'm no Ember expert, but I know that that our file is still very simple and that it's actually just kind of manually writing what the routes are.
So we created a route people. So the routes we have that's defined in the router are, we have about, bibliography, essay, credits, and now we have people.
See, manually created. We have not created any logic to generate routes just for the heck of it.
What do you mean?
I can imagine in this route.js actually creating like this is where you would work an API where you would create actually for every piece of data in the model. Once we have it, we could create a different route, right?
Yeah, so then let me create route people person.
Right. So this is an example, right? Now we will be able to, like, from every person, now we can have a different route. Yes. Every person would have its own RESTful URL.
Yes. So
I hope we're not.
So now you can like, wait. Say that again.
Some of the things we understand, and I hope that I know this can sound now, like I have the realization that this can sound really strange to somebody who's never used this language before.
Go ahead. So explain what you want to say.
No, that I'm saying like right now, what I just want to actually just explain it very easy what he's doing, which is that right now he's creating it so that there could be a URL where you could go to like peoples/John, and it would be just that one for like, sorry, we have Alice and Bob right now. So we just have Alice and Bob. You can have like people/Alice, and it would give you a specific, it would pump in specific data into the page.
Right. So we have about bibliography. So let's see what happens if we go to people right now. It's blank. It's blank because the people template
does not exist.
No, it exists. It's just blank.
Oh, you left it blank.
Well, I didn't. I mean, it was generated. So now it says people. Now here's where things get cool.
Sorry, I'm just anxiously looking at my phone on my timer.
Oh, I see. Okay. So the route, when we created the route, it created a bunch of files. So first off, it added the route that's here. It added the route to the router file, router.js, that we were looking at earlier. But then it also created app templates people.hbs, which is what we just looked at, that I added the people thing to. And it also created this file, app routes people.js. So let's open that up. And this is, finally, we're doing actual JavaScripting. So the route in Ember comes with a, the appropriate way to do it now is to make it an async function. But I don't want to have to explain async functions, not when I'm on the clock like this.
Well, you don't have to. We promised that we would do work. We don't have to teach everything we do.
Okay.
We take advantage of the fact that we can teach a lot, but we're actually also like for real working. So let's do it. So
let's
so that you can win this bet.
What's that?
I'm helping you out so that you can, win. Only 16 minutes. Oh, he's gonna do it old school without doing it async. I bet you this data is gonna choke people. So he's going to create a counter that goes from 1 to 209. And every time it hits the next number, so say the first time it hits 1, he's about to write the rule for what it's going to do when it hits 1.
Go on.
Well, I'm waiting for you to write the first rule. You haven't written the first rule. Let's see what is it going to do when it hits 1. Right now it's empty. We have an empty array called people. Now he's going to create a record. In the person attribute. Sorry, in the person model. Sorry. Now he's adding the attributes. Is this all Faker syntax?
No, this is just me typing.
Oh, okay. I thought Faker was going to amazingly populate.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm. You're done already copying the exact spelling of the second window, so you can close it so that we can actually read your first window.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
you have an unclosed bracket there somewhere?
Well, it'll complain. Well, this is all bad JavaScript.
Oh, okay, got it.
So okay, so all right, so name.
It's good, people. He might do it. He might be able to do it. He is literally looking at the documentation to do it while he does it. Ooh. Then they have country. We only have two values though, so you might just wanna, can't you create?
What's that?
Yeah, there you go.
All right,
Exactly.
let
Only
me
something-
just man, I really have to pee. I should have gone to go pee.
Would you
All
have
right,
10 minutes to do
let me
that?
let me just
Oh
do
my gosh, reminds me every
let
time
me
someone
just do
talks
this.
about
Let me
at the
just do
pool
this
table, they're
way
like,
for now.
oh.
Hold on. Let me just do this way for now to make sure that everything works as it's supposed to. Let's just do
Mhm, mhm, mhm. 10-minute mark. Just, you still have plenty of time. It's only 10-minute mark.
all right. Now why is it crashing? For okay, so now we need to close this. Then we close the for loop. Then this comes in here. And then, oops, nope. That goes above the for loop. Or it goes in the for loop. And then still a syntax error somewhere. All right. Closed.
You have a, you, no.
Closed. Closed. Return model. Oh, of course. I didn't close the model
Yeah.
method. No.
That one closes there. Yeah. Semicolon. Then you gotta close the for loop. There it is. Oh, you're missing a parenthesis. No, you're not. Yeah, no, you're not, you haven't closed the route.
Yeah, that's closed right here. It's at the bottom.
Oh,
I think I'm, you know what I think I'm doing? I think I'm writing the,
faker wrong?
no, I'm writing the ES, nope, that's here.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's correct. Model. Leading decorators must be attached to a class declaration. Okay. So, oh, of course. Ah! It's not called store. It's called this store.
Mm.
All right. So now we've got this, and then so here we are back here, and then let's do each model as person.
Now this is some Ember syntax.
Yes.
What's that language you use that we use in the HBS files?
Well, it's handlebars ish.
Handlebars.
Ish.
Typo.
Crash.
Okay, okay. But you just created fake names.
I just created it. Yeah, it's just a bunch of
Are
fake
you
names.
gonna say that you won this game by parking everything else
to be
next
constant.
week?
JS
That you will do
random
it. This is part
number.
of you. Like, I need to prepare for this kind of thing, so you'll have the data ready for next week.
Uh,
I think it's perfectly fine that things don't work out in the rather random 2-hour limit that we gave her for each Friday.
yeah.
I don't think you're gonna solve it in 5
I have
minutes.
to pee so badly you can't even imagine.
You can't even think straight. I can see your face,
I
man.
can't even think straight. I'm just
So
like,
we're gonna say
I gotta
goodbye
go.
to our audience.
I gotta
right
go. I gotta 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 go. I gotta
Bye,
go.
everybody. See you next week.
All right.